Jeremy Lamb saves the Pacers from a preseason overtime game as the team plays their first game in the newly named Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Duarte drops 21. Sabonis puts up a double-double. We'll discuss this and more coming up on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast. My name is Adam Friedman. As always, I'm host this wonderful podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, you can tell. Joining me on the other line to discuss the Pacers' 109-107 win against the Memphis Grizzlies, Tony East, Forbes.com, Westside Indianapolis News. Tony, how happy are you that Jeremy Lamb made that shot? You have to watch an extra, 15 minutes of basketball in real time?
Yeah, I tweeted that. I said, give Jeremy Lamb a contract extension just for getting us out of preseason overtime. I hate preseason basketball. Preseason overtime is horrible. And the Grizzlies were playing dudes I'd never even heard of. So thank goodness Jeremy Lamb got us out of that basketball game.
Yeah, but that wasn't necessarily a product of just it being a long game. They literally didn't play their starters. They rested, I think, was the
10 guys.
Yeah. Their leading scorer was a guy named Sam Merrill, and there's a guy I went to high school with that exact name, and that kind of says all that needs to be said.
Yeah, Sam Merrill was excellent, actually. He was the last
He was fantastic, but I mean, yeah.
He had 30 points. He was very good.
Oh, he was great. He was great, but he's not, I guess he might crack Grizzlies rotation this year, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, he's fighting to make the team. I think with that performance, he cemented his spot on the roster.
Anyways, to move on from the backbenchers, you want to start with Jeremy Lamb or Duarte? I'll give you the choice.
Let's start with Lamb because he rose to the moment, although I think Duarte is a bigger story from the game specifically. But Lamb deserves a lot of attention just in general. The talk for him all offseason was, this guy is making $10.5 million and he is going to be behind Chris Duarte, behind Justin Holiday, behind TJ Warren, behind Keras LeVert, maybe even behind Edmund Sumner. Like, how's he going to play? That's why, as the Indy Star reported, they were looking to trade him. That's why we always talked about Jeremy Lamb trades. Well, now, of those guys I just named, one of them is healthy in Duarte. All the rest are either not on the Pacers anymore or hurt. Jeremy Lamb is very important. So seeing him recover from his injuries he had both 2 years ago at the ACL tear and last year as he recovered from that, it's kind of important. He's going to be in this rotation. He needs to step up. He can rehab his own value. He can help the Pacers a lot. And seeing a game like this where Carlisle calls on him a lot down the stretch in pick and rolls with Sabonis and isolation, and he is able to get to his spots and rise to the occasion and be close to that score he was 2 years ago when he actually had value to the Pacers second unit was both huge for the Pacers and huge for Jeremy Lamb.
Yeah, we'll get to the latest injury at the end of this show. We'll talk about Malcolm Brogdon a little bit and give some updates on other injuries for the Pacers, obviously. Yeah, I thought Lamb offensively looked like his, I don't know, one call it was 18-19 season, the year before in Indiana. Even in that first part of his first run with Indiana, that first season, he looked that level. And his defense was, it's hard to tell because they weren't playing against anybody good, but it was I think exactly what you just baseline need to play him, I guess, right? Where he was semi-standing in front of guys and not losing them all the time. It wasn't he's not going to be a world-beating defender, and really nobody was good at defense tonight, so that's not just on him. But
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It was as good as everybody else out there, I guess, maybe the way to put
that's
it.
Fair.
Maybe that's enough for him to play. He is clearly the only guy, especially if they're this down on the bench, who can create his own shot. They'll have to stagger it with some of the starters, get Duarte out there, figure out gets a bonus to play more with the bench or whatnot. But he is the only guy who can do that. And so this is he did exactly what they would need him to do if this happened in the regular season where 3 starters were out plus their 6th man.
This is a bit of a stretch, admittedly, but Duarte was in the game in the clutch, but with LeVert out and Warren out and Brogdon out, he's kind of like their best shot creator for himself, on the team.
Bonus probably the guy in bonus hands.
Yeah, and him and Sabonis are doing the 2-man game at the end because it's oh wow, Jeremy Lamb's suddenly the best option for these clutch plays. And he missed 5 threes in this game, so he was 6 for 12 from the field for his 20 points, but he missed all 5 of his threes, so he was really good inside the arc, which I want to point out because at the end, they kept having him attack around Sabonis screens and getting, he's really good on the left side of the court, And I think 3 of his 4 buckets at the end came on that side because they kept attacking that way. In the 2-man game with Sabonis, they draw a switch, he would score, right? Like that was really good because that's, they wanted to practice end of game stuff. Carlisle and Lamb talked about that. They've been practicing in practice, but doing it against a real team was really valuable. And Lamb showed that to some extent, and it's a preseason game against the Grizzlies' 5th and 6th and 7th best versions of themselves, whatever. But they got in the reps, and Lamb made it happen, and he was their best option, and he stepped up. And I think that's good for his confidence. And he definitely looks closer to 1920 Lamb right now than 2020-21 Lamb right now. We'll see how much that translates into the season, but at least an encouraging sign to see him be able to do what he needs to do, play 2-man game, and create a little bit.
So has this at all for you changed your opinion on whether he should start with all the injuries? Like if we say they're down Levert, down Warren, and down Holiday start the year, like that, I think that's a reasonable. I think with Brogdon, with what later I said, might not be, but those 3 guys, like, should he start or do they need him to play the 6th man? So like, don't start him.
Yeah, well, for 2 reasons. I mean, we said he would start because I thought Carlisle would be the guy he's been in the past, but he's not. Whatever. No, I don't think he should because, like we said, Duarte, who we'll get to him very shortly, is younger and looks great, especially in this game. He looked really great and looks great. You want to develop that with your starting 5. Torrey Craig, you need your 5th option guy out there. He's really good at defense. I think that makes more sense from a fit perspective. And the other reason that's not related to his Jeremy Lamb fit in the starters is with the 2nd unit, he fits much better because they can then get that self-creation that they desperately need, especially if Brogdon misses any time. We'll get to him. I don't think he's going to. But anyway, he can help that 2nd unit more because we saw that from game 1 to 2 in the preseason where the 2nd unit got much better as soon as Lamb went into it because they finally had someone who could put it on the floor and score. So I think he fits better with the 2nd unit, and I think Duarte and Craig fit better with the starter. So I would still go with that unless he's like 20 points every game.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of Duarte, he put up 21 points, 6 rebounds. And I think really even more important was I thought was good, 4 assists. I think the one thing, and this is not an original thought, I'm pretty sure I saw Caitlin Cooper tweet it out. I think you probably tweeted out. The amount of times Duarte was able to make the right read, whether it was on getting open on a screen, whether it was finding Sabonis in the post one time, I think he did that, or whether it was just like on the defensive end, cutting off the right passing lane. Like there's a speed to the game that he definitely, at least tonight when he played against Memphis's scrubs, looked like he was like on that level. Now I don't know if that will translate to when you're playing a good starting 5 level of like being able to play at that speed, but he's definitely like better than the back of the league. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he just wow in this game. I mean, that was impressive stuff from a rookie, and I agree with Caitlin, especially because he would get in really deep, and then he would be surrounded by 2 defenders and just make these crazy little flip passes to Sabonis. I love that we're on YouTube now and I can actually like show people what I'm trying to say. That were really impressive, right? And we talked about that a little bit after their Knicks game of the value he had with McConnell, that he could create those threes for McConnell. He did. Like we've seen him make pretty good reads a lot, and his space creation and ISO isn't super great yet, but in pick and roll situations or when he's cutting and he has that half step already, his decision making is very good. His shot making is very good. His acceleration and deceleration are very good. So he can use that space and leverage into a good shot. In this game, it was all on display. He looked like the Pacers' best player for 3/4 of the game. He was very good.
Yeah, I'm honestly, this happened in the last preseason games, but basically it's clear his floor is just like a very high floor. Like I don't know if he's going to have some like massive ceiling, but like he definitely is probably the most NBA ready rookie like of this draft class, right? Like he's like just able to go out there and play. Now I think if you took Cade Cunningham and put him on like a really good team, he probably also could play right now, right? So some of that is he's on a team that kind of is a little bit better, not on one of these like bottom feeder teams. But he just like he comes up there and has a presence that just is like, I can play in a rotation for 20 minutes and you can trust me, which is something that I think is really rare from that pick. And you're even seeing that of Isaiah Jackson a little bit. Like he's also has some confidence there. So I don't know if it's just that maybe the Pacers nailed their picks right now looks like right now, or just it's this just draft class. But like there just seemed like to be a little more confidence out of both their first round picks.
Duarte, yeah. Isaiah, I tweeted during the game like, there are some possessions where they're in transition and whoever has the ball just kind of looks at him and just throws it up high, and Isaiah scores because he's so long and he can jump higher than everybody, and then he just catches it and scores. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Duarte looks very polished already in his draft class. I haven't watched enough of the rookies enough in preseason. I usually try to watch other teams in preseason. I don't really care enough.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak for other rookies at the current moment, but he certainly looks like he'll be ready to play in a rotation for an NBA team on the Pacers, which is very good. The clear rotation spot, right, which is great. We always talk about how rookies are bad, right? That's a thing that I say all the time. Rookies tend to be bad, and there's a chance Duarte is slightly above bad. If he can be this guy, he's like valuable. Again, they were playing the Grizzlies G squad or their fifth team, whatever. But he did a very nice job. He showed off some skills that he can develop and translate into minutes and help his team win. And that's going to be very valuable all season. It's very rare to, we've seen good preseason moments even from TJ Leaf in the past and stuff like
Yeah, but
that.
nothing like this, I don't think.
But I was going to say nothing like this. Like there's just a point where you see it and you just know, like you watch it and you just see it and go, yes, he is good, right? And so that's very valuable, and I'm excited to watch him continue to grow.
Yeah, you definitely can't underestimate how valuable it is to have a draft pick that you can play in your rotation. Even first year, second or third year, just hitting on a first round pick at any point is just like really good because they haven't done that in 5 seasons now, right? The last draft pick they hit on was Turner, basically, right? They haven't had any rotation playable player like consistently since then. So I mean, if they
I
just
think
hit
Goga could be a backup center in a normal NBA rotation, but not the Pacers rotation.
Yeah,
clarity, but yes, I understand.
I have some thoughts on Goga after tonight, but a bunch of other players too. So you want to do that? You want to move on and talk about just the rest of the Pacers and
sure
some other game thoughts from the night's win? Let's do that next. But first, let's take one quick break. Today's Locked On Pacers podcast is brought to you by our wonderful friends over at SweatBlock. So there are a few things in life that just aren't fun to talk about, and one of them is excessive sweating. The kind of sweating where you sweat through your shirt for no reason. It can be kind of embarrassing. This isn't a life or death, and there are much worse problems in the world, but let's be honest, in the moment, this feels like a big deal. Nobody likes to put out during an important speech, interview, or God forbid a first date. You'd rather not worry about it, and that's why you should use SweatBlock antiperspirant wipes. You simply apply it at night before bedtime, go to bed, wake up the next morning, wash, and go about your day without worrying about sweat, guaranteed. And right now, you can try SweatBlock. Either go with sweatblock.com. You get 20% off with the promo code LOCKED ON. That's LOCKEDON. Or you can check out SweatBlock at Amazon and CVS. All right. So I think where I want to start, at least with the Pacers game, was just how bad they were at shooting across the board. I don't know if that is that a Gamebridge curse. We'll see. But like they in their newly named facility, they were 5 of 25 from 3. I mean, that was like terrible. I mean, they were lucky to win that game. In any situation, they'd be lucky to win a game when they make only 5 of maybe 20% from 3.
Yeah, there was one point where the Grizzlies were 7 of 13 and the Pacers were 0 of 13. They were still in the game. Like they were dominating every other way against inferior opponents, but the Grizzlies made lots of threes and the Pacers made no threes. At halftime, they were 1 for 16 from 3. And then McConnell, of all people, takes the lid off to start the second half. So after being 1 for 16, they actually had 4 for 9 is like a fine second half from deep. But yeah, they really could not hit them in Gainbridge. And I was trying to muse during the game, like the quality of the looks they were getting were really bad too. Torrey Craig continues to befuddle me with his quality, but also they didn't have Justin Holiday, who's their best shooter now that McDermott's on the team, maybe their second best shooter. But the other guy who would be in that conversation is Malcolm Brogdon. He was also not playing, and he's good at creating shots for his teammates. So they didn't have the guys who can make threes at a high level anyway. So that's part of it. But yeah, they looked horrible shooting the ball from deep.
Yeah, I mean, in their defense, their 5 best 3-pointers last year did not play, right? You have McDermott, who's no longer on the team, and Holiday, LeVert, Brogdon, and Warren are probably their 4 best 3-point shooters. Like when you think about it, I bet when the year ends, that they both play enough games, they will have the 4 highest 3-point shooters, unless like Sabonis or somebody has this random outlier.
Duarte or Lamb could challenge that, but I think those are the
Duarte, might.
Or O'Shea if he ever can play.
Yeah, well, that's another thought. Yeah, the quality of looks were just miserable. There was 1 3 from Goga where I think it was mid-second quarter. There was a pass. It was a bad pass. Goga had to like recatch it, reestablish himself, and took a three and just I don't think he even hit. I mean, he might have hit the backboard, but like did not hit rim. I mean, it was just like they were just like basically just I don't know junking up threes, and they were just like it was just like miserable to kind of watch. It's kind of reminded me of the Pacers from that 18-19 season. Where they would score like less than 20 points at least one quarter for like an entire like for 3 months in a row. They basically did that. It was eh.
Yeah, I asked Carlisle about the threes after the game, and he was like, "It just wasn't a weapon for us tonight." And you can tell when you take 16 in one half and then 9 in the second. And the 16 is they've been taking more than 16 per half in the first 2 preseason games. That's another reason why I think that missing some guys is the reason for their shot profile change. But I think at halftime they had taken 16 and made 1, and they're like, "We're going away from this, right? We cannot create good threes." And they went to other shots, and that worked for them. So I think that the volume number being down is both a personnel thing and a choice that they made in the middle of the game because Carlisle was like, this isn't our thing. But yeah, they got to be better than that. To be a good NBA team, you need to shoot well, and you can't shoot 20% against a terrible group of opponents, right? No, I feel like I'm dumping on these Grizzlies guys too much. Like some of their guys actually played very well and stepped up.
Yeah, but you can't. A lot of what happened tonight is because like just like at least the positive parts come from the fact they're playing such a like scrub team basically.
Yeah, the reason there's fun positives is because they limped across the finish line against a team they should destroy, right?
Yeah.
Like even Carlisle said after the game, like, yeah, we won, but we have to be realistic about like what actually just happened in that game.
So then with that caveat, do you think Isaiah Jackson is like inching his way to basically being, I don't know, the 9th or 10th guy in the rotation, whatever you want to call it? Like I would say the Goga O'Shea spot that's kind of up in the air. It feels like at least right now, even I think O'Shea should get it. Like, does it feel like Jackson's in the mix for that kind of like we'll call it 9th spot right now?
I think so. I bought a little more of the rotation than you in the preseason, just that I think we've kind of seen the structure of how they rank guys at just guard, wing, center in general. They did throw a wrench in things today by putting Goga in the first quarter and Dwayne Washington in the first quarter. Wow. But in general, the second half, they went away from that kind of stuff and they really tried to win this game. So I think we have a general idea of how they rank guys. And because we heard from Carlisle and Isaiah Jackson himself that they've been working him at the 4 in practice now, I think they're kind of grooming him to be that role where they have one center, or that's Turner Sabonis in the whole game, and they play together some, and then Jackson gets some of those other minutes at the 4, and maybe with this injury to Justin Holiday, O'Shea can get in as the backup 3, or maybe they just move Isaiah up so they can get O'Shea in and change up their second unit in some way. So he'll still play probably a little bit at the start of the season. He was in the rotation in the second half, like I said, when they went with a more serious rotation. That's 3 games in a row where O'Shea has technically been in the rotation, but also kind of not. But anyway, I think Isaiah is who they want to be the backup for, though, just given what they've chosen so far in preseason and what they've said in practice and how he's played.
Yeah. Can I make it? I think Isaiah, his role right now, and won't be future, reminds me a little bit of where Jakar was last year, 2 years ago, where like I think he's going to obviously be the emergency center, right? Like if all 3 centers are hurt, he's going to be the center.
Yep.
And he's in this role where he can't really shoot that well, which is kind of Jakar's issue, but like is athletic, has a lot of energy, comes in, and like that's worth something if you're playing at like on the bench and at that like 4 hybrid spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he can do it for sure. And he's like a decent enough passer when he's running fast. Like he had 2 assists in this game. He'll make the obvious read, and he's so springy he can get the rebounds. Like he can fit in fine, and he's done well. And I think that they like him enough. And his defense is awesome already, right? So I think they're going to try to play him as the backup 4, and maybe there's some growing pains there against legit competition, but that's looking like what they're going to choose.
So do you have any like major points we haven't hit from the game? Otherwise, I want to do a little game with you.
I do. Sabonis was great. We kind of skimmed over him, but he had 24 and 13, and his defense was noteworthily good to me in this game. He played a very nice defensive game. He made Santi Aldama. I have to make sure I say that right. He just bullied him over and over again this game, and Xavier Tillman. So credit Sabonis. Great offensive game, playing the 2-man game with Duarte in the first half and Lamb down the stretch, and great game on the glass. He played very well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing I would say is why was he playing end of that game? It'd be my thought.
Yeah,
like,
I know. They had a lot of speed players. McConnell started. He was in a little bit at the end. Turner
but at least McConnell was like he's the backup in general. Like Sabonis did not need to play 32 minutes.
Yeah, that was weird. I think they probably play the starters less in the last game, but we'll see.
Yeah. So the game I want to do is just like one thought on each player, and I think you probably have that on your notes, right? You want to do that, or do you have
Yeah.
like you want to
Some
do that, or
players
do you
I
have?
don't know if we have enough, but yeah, I'll talk a little bit about everybody.
Okay, just because I think we got a lot of players we're gonna hit, and we don't want to like go forever.
Sure.
So we
Okay.
talked about the bonus, Duarte, Lamb. We've done enough Isaiah Jackson. So give me a thought on Torrey Craig real quick.
Yeah, his defense is fine. Like he fits in with the starters well. That group did well when he was in there. But his offense I talked about this on the O'Shea pod yesterday and in this game today. Like he's just dribbling too much for my liking, and he's not a good enough shooter to be taking 5 threes. Maybe he's worked on his shot a lot, and during the season they can get better, like we saw with O'Shea last year. I'm sorry, you said one thought, and I'm going to go too long.
Yeah,
but
classic Tony move.
O'Shea, when he got only open threes, his percentage rose a bunch, right? So maybe that can happen with Craig. But I see his value on defense, but I continue to be confused by his offensive role.
Yeah, I think my one thought is he's involved too much in the offense right now, and he's playing probably too many minutes for what he needs to be playing once everything settles in. I hope.
He kind of merits a health injury here. He got elbowed really hard in the face and lost a tooth and spit it out on the court. So I hope he's
well, NBA players have enough money; they just replace those teeth with that great health insurance.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I hope he's okay. All right. Give me one thought on Miles Turner and keep it to like one thought because you could probably give me like 7, I'm sure.
Defense looks just as good as last year.
Yes, I would agree. I'm glad to see he's back healthy. He looks 100% out there, and I'm intrigued to see like again what him and Sabonis can do together. I don't know why. I mean, I think we've seen enough, but like maybe there's just something we haven't seen yet that they can get out of that pairing. Okay, McConnell.
Yeah, I actually have a sad McConnell note.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the shot that he was so good at last year, that like turnaround 8-footer, has he taken it once yet?
Did he take one in the game, or did he try to, but then he got run off of it? Maybe.
Yeah. So he's still been great as a creator for his teammates to me, like a bunch of assists every game. The stuff McConnell's good at, he can still do, but his best shot, like very efficient last year, like 58% of those he made. He's barely taking them, and he's trading them for shots that he's not as good at. So I'm curious to watch his shot profile going forward.
Yeah, I wonder if teams know that the only shot are trying to take it away from him, basically. But that could lead to having more assists, to be honest, because he's that good of a creator. Okay, we've done all the starters. Give me one thought on O'Shea Brissett.
Made his 3, played nice defense, nice assist. He's getting to the rim very well. He drove to the rim once and drew a foul and one. Very next possession, great cut, gets to the rim, draws another foul. I mean, I think he's too good to be buried in the rotation the way he is. I get that he's like an 8th guy level player, but he's an 8th guy level player, and he's not playing at that level. So I continue to be impressed by the things he does, and I'm surprised he doesn't play more.
Yeah, I hope when the rotation starts, like you kind of said, something gets settled out. He ends up being that 8th guy because I think he probably at least deserved a shot at it to start the season. Okay, we did Goga.
Can I tell you what my note on O'Shea says in my note?
Sure, read it.
It says Brisket, drawing contract and scoring. So my phone autocorrected his name to Brisket. I didn't even realize that.
I'm pretty sure I used to call the old Colts quarterback who had the same last name, Jacoby Brissett. Brisket. Yeah, but that was maybe more of a nickname for him. I don't remember. All right, we talked about Goga. We did Jeremy Lamb. I guess we do Dwayne Washington. I mean, he was in for 5 minutes.
His defense was so bad.
Yeah, he came in, scored a couple points. He played minutes.
He hit 2 shots, and he had a charge, and his defense was atrocious. They got smoked in his minutes. I mean, he was awful.
Like I said, he played NBA, or he played some rotation minutes. That's all I can say.
I was very surprised he got in there. He is there to shoot, and that is his job so far.
The last guy I'll say is Brad Wanamaker, and my only thought of him was like, he looks fine. Like it's very like. Looks older than I remember him looking. To be honest, last year when I watched him, but he's like gonna fit fine with that 3rd point guard spot. I think
he's pretty upright, but yeah, 2 assists, no turnovers, 6 rebounds, 4 points. Solid stats from a guy who can be your 3rd point guard. My thought on Wanamaker, less about his play, more about what we learned tonight inadvertently about Brad Wanamaker. Malcolm Brogdon is out. Big opportunity for your non-guaranteed contract point guards to compete for the last roster spot. Let's check in on this. Brad Wanamaker played 25 minutes and 42 seconds. Kiefer Sykes did not play. I think we kind of know who they're going to pick for that spot.
Yeah, they didn't play. Drew, Sykes, Taylor, Hinton. They basically have locked in their 15. I mean,
the Exhibit 10 guy's not playing. I get that. Dro, maybe, if you're going to play Dwayne a little bit, maybe try to sneak him in. But I think we've figured out who they're keeping at this point.
Yeah,
the last one because Keelan was hurt, so he couldn't play. So the point guard battle, the minutes distribution tonight kind of settled it to me.
Yeah, I think we know who the teams 15 are right now. When do they have to make the final cuts before we move on?
Technically, Saturday. I'll probably do a segment on this tomorrow.
Okay.
It's very stupid. The payments start on the 18th, but you have to have cleared waivers by then. So it's the 16th you have to be cut by. So that's Saturday.
Okay. So now we'll take another break and we'll talk about some of the Pacers injuries and others news and notes. But first, today's Locked On Pacers podcast is brought to you by our wonderful friends over at BetOnline.ag. The football season is back, and so is the NBA season. It's better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron or the court as the teams are back for another season. And as always, BetOnline.ag is your number one spot for all the pro football, college football, and basketball action. With a new updated site, interface, and even more odds and props and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football and basketball. Head to the website today and sign up and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with the promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON. You get 50% on your first deposit. Probably a good time to start making some of those NBA future bets. Season's 7 days away, so you might want to get on some over-unders and future bets on BetOnline.ag. Everything from football to basketball to boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers today and all that are available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fast and easy way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. All right, Tony, what's the latest on Malcolm Brogdon?
Yeah, we talked to Carlisle before the game. He also talked a little bit about this at shoot around. But anyway, Brogdon is hurt. He hurt his shoulder at practice on Tuesday. That's the official day. I didn't ever know if it was late Monday or early Tuesday. Anyway, his shoulder is hurt. He did not play in this game. I would just guess he doesn't play in the last preseason game. Why would he? But Carlisle did say, while he's not 100% sure, he does expect Brogdon to be available for their regular season opener in Charlotte, which is good news. He added that Brogdon went through some of the work they did at shoot around before the Memphis game. Some of that was a walkthrough, which isn't very demanding, but still he's doing team activities. He's expected, not 100% confirmed, but he's expected to play for the regular season opener. That's great news.
Yeah, it seems like this is more precautionary why he didn't play today. I mean, you don't need to play a guy if he's not 100% healthy. Like, there's no point.
Yep.
Preseason game like this. Imagine he won't play Friday. Do you think any of this? Do you think they'll like go real, like just bench guys for Friday's game? They did that in the past, or they've not played the last preseason game at all. I think
we've already seen that. We just saw the Grizzlies play their final preseason game, or maybe their final. That was their fifth one, but I mean, they played nobody. And the Cavs, who the Pacers are playing on Friday, are also sitting out quite a few guys. So it would not surprise me at all if we, even if Brogdon might have been available, if we just don't see a ton of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked just because I think it's the time when you give your exhibit 10 guys before you cut them a chance just to kind of like play and show another team they can maybe fight for a roster spot somewhere else or look good on a European or Chinese team, I guess. That's a possibility this year. Yeah, I'd be surprised if they play much of their starters because it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so is there any update on Keras heading into this last week?
Not really.
Okay.
We asked about Keras's second back scan after the initial diagnoses, and Carlisle said it didn't reveal anything that changes anything crazy for the team, right? So we don't really have an update beyond that. We'll probably be prying on Friday, but it seems like he could be able to go opening night, maybe a few games in. I don't know. He looks totally fine when we see him, so it might be a pain management thing. I never know. And Carlisle's a little more close to the vest with injuries than the last two Pacers coaches, so it's a little harder to know. But I could go either way on him playing in the opener, but he seems like he's pretty healthy when I see him.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, you probably have to pry. You're asking about 5 players, right? They have 5 injuries at the moment. So there's left is like Justin Holiday's ankle, Warren's second scan or next month checkup.
We're
and then
getting
Martin,
close to
right?
Warren's 3-week update. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so was there any update on Justin Holiday's ankle at all?
Just what we learned at Fan Jam and in the ensuing days that he is getting better every day and healing, but still day to day on that.
Okay. Yeah. So now they're down. So I imagine
I know with Warren out, whatever, it's a little different, but there was a chance that their top 6 are that Warren and his replacement would both have been out, and LeVert and Brogdon. Like there was a chance prior to today in my head that they were just missing 3 and replacement starters, where there's a chance that 4 starters are actually available on opening night, but there's still some stuff up in the air. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, after the Holiday and LeVert injuries, I thought, wow, I mean, they could already be very decimated. When the
Well, they're gonna end up having to play like at least bring their two-way guys to the start of the season if they have at least 3 injuries.
Well, fortunately, dorky rule alert, but until the G League season starts, 2-way days don't even count, so they'll be with the team anyway.
Oh, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. But I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, if they have to play the 2-way guys, that's a whole other issue.
Not
More
great.
concerning. We at least
Not
saw one of them.
great.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the rotation we saw tonight, if that has to hold, it's going to be a rough couple weeks to start the season, I think. But
yeah, and I don't know. I don't like they're not going to play Dwayne Washington in a game that matters.
Yeah, but if they have that many guys hurt, are they going to be forced to in some ways?
No, I mean they played Lamb, Jackson, Wanamaker, and Brissett was 10 seconds away, so I'm counting him here. Double-digit minutes off the bench. Like that's a fine enough backup group if you're really desperate. It's not great, but it's fine. Like you're not going to get destroyed if you're mixing and matching. So yeah, I mean they'll be way worse, but they're not like totally dead in the water.
Yeah, they need
about 1 injury away from being dead in the water, though.
Well, the thing is too is they need a starting front court player, right? Or backcourt. Well, am I mixing it up now? They need some kind of backcourt player. Sorry, they need some kind because they have two good centers, but they don't have anybody to create for them. And that's, I mean, McConnell can, but like, I mean, that's how you end up in this really bad situation where like Sabonis is taking passes from Dwayne Washington, and that's not going to work out well.
Carlisle's very like I've said with his answers, where he'll answer exactly what you asked him, and that's why I think when he talks about Brogdon, he's saying we're not 100% sure because you're never 100% sure, right? But he did say he expects him to play, so I would imagine Brogdon will be playing against Charlotte, barring a setback in the next week. LeVert and Holiday, not sure.
Yeah. Any other news and stuff going around?
No, tomorrow, I was going to talk about, the last roster cuts and the Cavs a little bit, but the other thing is, remember we talked about extensions quite a while ago and who is eligible, but the deadline for those is also the day before the season, which is next Monday, right? So there is a lot of roster stuff to watch, and guys who get extended can't be traded for 6 months. So remember Brogdon and LeVert, whose names have been in Simmons talkaroos, like if they get extended, all of a sudden they can't get traded till after the trade deadline, and that would very much change the optics of any Simmons stuff. I wanted to Bobby Marks pointed that out on his podcast, and I wanted to relay that in that form. So that's something else that is noteworthy coming up, but really nothing too noteworthy. They don't have practice tomorrow, so we probably won't get any updates on these injuries until after the Cavs game, I would say. But the big update, Adam, is that regular season Pacers basketball is less than a week away, which is crazy.
Yeah. Thank God. It's about time. I'm ready for it.
I can't believe it. It snuck up on us so much.
Well, it's a shortened off season, and like all the NBA teams, we just didn't have enough time to rest this. It just caught back up because we didn't have enough time off. Just caught us by surprise.
Do we ever have enough time off? Yeah, the buzz around the team is just kind of like they're ready for the games, right? The preseason is what it is, and guys are still building chemistry, and they know they need to get better on defense. But there's only so much you can glean from games that don't count, and funky rotations and funky opponent groups. Like you learn a lot about what Carlisle likes and how they're going to play. Like we know way more about the team now than we did 7 days ago even, but there's still, a big gap between what we're watching now and what we'll be seeing in a week and the prep the Pacers have to do for those games. So still a lot to learn about this team.
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing will be Duarte. Does he start with the injuries, and then that's his preseason success or the red success? And we'll just have to wait and see, to be honest. I don't think we'll know an answer for a
once
while.
LeVert is back, if Holiday's not back, we will learn a little bit about how they feel about Duarte playing the 3, or basically him versus Craig. So that's, I guess, something else to watch out for as we get a few more injury updates. And I guess, I want to say this because I will talk more about cuts tomorrow, but the cut down deadline being in 2 days, we could learn about the Wanamaker Sykes conclusion in couple
I think
hours.
we have the answer already. Let's be real.
I mean, yeah, officially get the conclusion to that kind of stuff, because some teams, we've already seen this, and Philly did this today. I'm talking about this a lot. They'll cut their Exhibit 10 guys, bring in more with the new roster spots, and then immediately cut those guys. So we could see the Pacers do that with just a few days left on that. And then also something to watch for, Keelan Martin's guarantee date is in less than a week, and I'm sure the Pacers would like to get that pushed back if they could. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and they might be in a good leverage spot too with his injury and with the fact they have their third point guard locked up. So good for them, I guess, on that front. We'll see what happens with that. You'll have a podcast tomorrow kind of talking about the Cavs game and all the other stuff you talked about, extensions, cuts, and whatnot. And then we'll be back next week basically previewing the season and previewing the first game. And then we'll have our usual overreactions to game one show, at least my favorite show of the year. I think Tony hates it, but also kind of loves it secretly. So we'll have that. As always, you can watch this podcast on YouTube. We're on YouTube now. Tony, wave for the YouTube audience. And obviously, this podcast is on whatever feed you listen to it on. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Pacers, Tony at TeasedNBA, me at FreeMadam5. That is all for Locked On Pacers podcast. We'll see you guys again tomorrow.